Welcome to Talk Tickers. Today, we're diving into Pan American Silver's Q3 earnings. Now, on the surface, this looked like a miss, but the stock actually rallied. We're going to break down exactly why the market cheered for something the automated headlines completely missed. So, this is the big question, right? How does that even happen? The headline numbers, they look disappointing, yet the stock went up. So what did smart investors see that the algorithms didn't? Let's get into it.
Okay, so here's the disconnect in black and white. You've got an adjusted earnings miss of 2% and a revenue miss of 1.5%. I mean, normally that would send a stock down. But instead, PAAS closes up almost 1.8% and on some really heavy volume too. This tells you right away the market was following a totally different story.
And that story, that narrative, it was all about cash, plain and simple. While the top-line numbers were a little soft, the company's financial engine was just firing on all cylinders. This wasn't just a good quarter for cash. It was a sign of a major turning point for the whole business. You don't have to take my word for it. The CEO, Michael Steinman, he put it right at the top of his comments. He said, "We achieved record attributable free cash flow." See, this wasn't just a good number, it was a record. And in a business like mining, which just eats up capital, free cash flow is everything. It's king. This single quote, right here, it set the tone for the entire earnings call and the market's positive reaction. Let's just let that number sink in. $251.7 million. This is the figure that made everyone forget about that tiny earnings miss. We're talking about over $250 million in cash generated. It proves the company's core operations are healthier and more profitable than ever. And that's exactly what you want to see as a long-term investor. And all that cash generation leads to this, a balance sheet that's basically a fortress. They've got $1.7 billion in total available liquidity. You know what that means? It gives them incredible flexibility to fund new projects, pay down debt, or, as we're about to see, give back to shareholders. And here's the proof in the pudding. Management didn't just sit on that cash. They immediately raised the dividend by a whopping 16%. This is such a powerful signal of confidence. They're not just telling you the business is strong. They are showing you by putting more cash directly into shareholders' pockets.
So you might be asking, how did they pull this off? Well, first and foremost, it's the acquisition of MAG Silver. That deal closed in September and brought in a 44% stake in the Juanicipio mine, which is just a world-class, super low-cost silver operation. And even with just 1 month of its results in the quarter, the impact was huge. You combine that game changer with really strong prices for silver and gold, and bam, you've got a recipe for record cash flow. All right, so that's the story of the quarter. Now let's look ahead. The company's updated guidance reveals this really interesting split, a tale of two segments, really, between their silver and gold operations. So, check this out. For the silver segment, it's all good news. They raised production guidance and they lowered cost guidance. I mean, that's the dream scenario. But then you look over at the gold segment, and guidance was just left unchanged. That kind of hints that there might be some challenges under the hood. And the context here is absolutely critical. The silver side of the business is just soaring thanks to those brand new, high-grade, low-cost ounces from the Juanicipio mine. The gold segment, though, is struggling a bit with some operational issues. Management used the phrase back-end weighted to describe gold production, which, is corporate speak for, yeah, Q3 was tough, but we're hoping Q4 will be a lot better. Now, looking forward, if you're watching this stock, here are the key dates to circle on your calendar. First, Q4 earnings are going to be huge. Why? Because it'll be the first report with a full quarter of results from that amazing Juanicipio mine. In that same report, we'll get our first peek at the 2026 guidance. Then, looking out to mid-2026, we'll get an updated technical report on the massive La Colorada Skarn project, and that's the company's key to long-term growth. So, with all of that in mind, how does Pan American Silver really stack up against its rivals and the market as a whole? Let's zoom out and put its performance into context. So year-to-date, PAAS is up over 90%. That is absolutely crushing the S&P 500's 15% gain. But, and this is interesting, it has slightly lagged the broader silver miners ETF, which is called SIL. That fund is up around 115%. So what that tells us is that while PAAS has been a fantastic performer, there might have been some room to catch up to its peers. And that's exactly what we seem to be seeing now. Even though PAAS has trailed that basket of silver miners over the last year, its performance right after earnings shows this shift. It's starting to show relative strength. It looks like the market is finally beginning to price in those company-specific improvements, especially that cash flow story we keep talking about. All right, time for the bottom line. Let's put all the pieces together. Based on this quarter, the guidance, and how the market reacted, here is our official take on Pan American Silver as we head into the next earnings cycle.
So you've got two sides to this coin. The bull case is pretty clear. That free cash flow explosion from the MAG deal is real, and it's just getting started. The company gives you huge exposure to silver prices, and that La Colorada project gives them a clear path for future growth. The bear case, on the other hand, is all about execution risk in that struggling gold segment. Plus, the stock's had a monster 80% run, so it's not exactly cheap anymore. And of course, it's always dependent on what metal prices do.
So, after weighing all those factors, our rating is outperform. We think the market is doing the right thing here. It's looking past the minor headline noise and focusing on the huge structural improvement in cash generation. We believe the integration of Juanicipio is a total game changer, and that it's still not fully reflected in the stock's price compared to its peers. And for those of you who like to get a little more sophisticated, here's a trade idea. We see a classic pair trade opportunity. Go long on Pan American Silver, and at the same time short the Silver Miners ETF, SIL. What's the thinking here? Well, you're trying to isolate the company's specific advantage, the alpha, that we expect from the successful integration of Juanicipio. The strategy basically hedges out your exposure to the silver price and the sector in general, letting you make a pure bet on Pan American's ability to execute better than its competitors. And that's our deep dive on Pan American Silver. Before we sign off, just a quick but very important disclaimer. This is not financial advice. Just a reminder that all of the analysis we presented here is strictly for informational and educational purposes. You should always do your own research, and please consult with a professional financial advisor before making any investment decisions.